In 1941, a wooden box was washed ashore in Chumphon, Thailand. Inside was the latest biological weapon developed by the Japanese army. The zombie virus quickly spread. A capture team was immediately dispatched. However, these mysterious creatures were continuously evolving. A national defense war was about to begin. Young soldier Mork and a group of peers were training on the coast of Chumphon, Thailand. At that time, war had not yet broken out. They regarded the training camp as a summer camp. Every time they were caught violating the rules by the captain, they would face a good scolding. But the youthful spirit was most vigorous, and no setback could dampen their desire for fun. One day, Mork's brother Mek learned that his girlfriend Apen was pregnant. He quickly pulled out a family heirloom ring to propose. Although Mek was just a low-ranking private at the moment, he had little savings, but he was determined to work hard to give Apen a bright future. A fisherman rushed over, shattering Mek's dreams of the future. The old fisherman had just cast his net behind the island. He had discovered that the bay was filled with Japanese soldiers. At this moment, the Japanese army sent envoys to negotiate with the Thai authorities. They planned to advance further into India and China, and wanted Thailand to serve as a base for the imperial army. The Thai government had already agreed to pay war reparations, and provided supplies to the Japanese army. At that time, Japan was developing biological weapons to threaten the Thai military leaders into submission.
สู้กันก่อนยอมทีหลังอย่าให้เสียเลือดเนื้อเกินจำเป็น
The soldiers didn't realize that their superiors were just putting on a show. All coastal troops were ready within an hour. They immediately entered a defensive state. Mork's youth army also had to report to the military. Mrs. Tan didn't want her young son to take risks. She blocked the officer at the door to buy time. Mork hurriedly changed into civilian clothes and ran away. He planned to hide at a friend's house for a few days, but Mork was stopped by his brother halfway. Mek disapproved of Mork's attempt to flee at such a critical moment. He said some harsh words to provoke him, but Mork never wanted to be a soldier like his father. Since he was a child, he didn't want to wait here to be killed, but to protect one's home and country. Without a country, how can there be a home? Mek explained, "We go to war on the battlefield, for our mothers, our lovers, and for the children who are about to be born."
กูพูดที่กูอยากพูดไปหมดแล้วที่เหลือมึงก็คิดเอาเองแล้วกันว่ามึงจะสู้หรือจะหนี
The Japanese army had invaded from Songkhla, Narathiwat, and Phat Halung, as well as from the coast of Chumphon. The war had finally begun. Mork returned to the youth army and fought alongside his comrades. They were almost scared out of their wits and could only flee the coast. However, a box containing biological weapons was washed ashore by the waves. A hideous zombie crawled out from inside, leading to an immediate attack on Mork and his group. By the time he reacted, his comrades had nearly all perished. Mork was also trapped in the swamp, unable to move. The more he tried to struggle, the deeper he sank. Suddenly, a pair of hands grabbed Mork, but the newcomer was an enemy, not a friend. Several youth soldiers had already turned into zombies. After this desperate struggle was over, the Thai government immediately ordered all military and police forces to cease fire, and stated that both governments were in negotiations. All Thai and Japanese patrol units were to immediately assess the damage. While the Japanese army was searching the coastal forests, they discovered that the zombie virus had already spread, and had entered an uncontrollable state. They were soon counterattacked by the zombified youth soldiers. The entire patrol team was wiped out. The scene was horrific, with suffering everywhere. However, the Thai government stated to the public that negotiations were going smoothly. The relationship between the two countries was friendly, and citizens should assist the Japanese army. At this moment, Mek also arrived in the coastal forest to search. He found a survivor in a trap and jumped in to rescue them. As he got closer, he realized that the trapped one was a zombie. Mek had never seen such a creature before. He quickly grabbed a stick for protection. He stabbed through the zombie's skull. Mek hurriedly grabbed the safety rope and climbed back to the surface. The zombie suddenly grabbed Mek's ankle. He picked up a stick from the bonfire and stabbed at the zombie in the pit. Unexpectedly, sparks ignited it instantly. Could it be that zombies are afraid of fire? Mek hurried back to report. He said he had seen the ghost of a youth soldier. The Japanese soldiers present immediately understood that it was the zombies from the box that had infected the youth soldiers. But Mek, as a low-ranking private, was still kept in the dark. On the other side, Mork woke up from a pile of bodies. His body had undergone a transformation. He could clearly see the whole process of a butterfly flapping its wings. Mork stood among the zombies, regaining consciousness. He remembered what had happened before he fainted. Those who were bitten began to cannibalize each other. Humans were attacked by them. the Japanese biological weapons developer, opened a document titled Non-Reduction Team Plan. It detailed the non-reduction A44 virus and the results of each live specimen experiment. According to the information in the plan, the infected zombies are divided into two main categories. One type exhibits great strength and high aggression, and quickly shows cannibalistic behavior. The other type is even stronger and faster, but they don't attack or devour each other. They still retain self-control, but it is unclear how long this self-control can last. Infected Mork clearly belongs to the second category. While wandering in the forest, he found the pocket watch that his brother had left behind. It still had pictures of their parents on it. Seeing this, Mork couldn't help but cry out. He couldn't accept that he had become this way. Mork picked up the gun on the ground and ready to end his life. At this moment, a fluid began to secrete under Mork's skin, causing his whole body to ignite spontaneously. This is also the greatest weakness of zombies, flammable. Mork was about to be burned to death. A zombie rushed over and knocked him down, and the mud extinguished the flames on Mork's body. At this moment, Mech arrived at the temporary medical facility, searching everywhere for his brother. He even hoped that Mork hadn't listened to him, and had hidden away instead. But a wounded soldier in the tent suddenly told Mech, "I saw your brother on the battlefield." Mech was emotionally stirred. Before he could ask for details, he was called by the Japanese for a discussion. Due to the reason that the biological virus had already gone out of control, the Japanese confessed to the Thai side that the prototype of the non-reduction people, locked in the box, had escaped. If it doesn't completely kill its prey, the prey will become infected and turn into one of them. To prevent the situation from worsening, Captain Nakamura of the destruction team requested that Thai soldiers familiar with the island join him to capture all non-reduction individuals alive. In the evening, Mork woke up from the mud. Surrounded by the swamp were many of his kind. A strange zombie threw a freshly killed animal onto the ground. The zombies were stimulated by the smell of blood and began to restless. Only after it left did they pounce to feed. This zombie, displaying strong leadership qualities, was likely the prototype of the escaped non-reduction individual Ashen. At this moment, Ashen held a photo of his beloved Yoko, his heart filled with the sorrow of never seeing her again. Mork witnessed the scene and took out the pocket watch. He also remembered his brother and mother, because Ashen shared the same feelings as him, so Mork instinctively followed him. He saw Ashen standing in the valley, his gaze deep, as if he could see through time and space, and catch a glimpse of his beloved Yoko.
あなたの記憶から消えないといけない。桜が咲きましたよ。
As Yoko disappeared, Ashen let out a roar and turned to dust, vanishing into the ravine. Where he passed, small flowers bloomed. Mock stood aside and froze. How did this turn from a zombie film into a romantic fantasy? The destruction team was searching the woods for the zombies' whereabouts. Captain Nakamura led everyone deeper into the forest. He instructed his subordinates to set up an ambush. Nakamura took out a short knife and cut his arm. The smell of blood indeed attracted a zombie. It was about to attack Nakamura. The destruction team captured the zombie Akai and locked him in a cage. They allowed scientists to continue studying his behavior. Mech couldn't stand this inhumane torture. Those zombies who retained their humanity and memories were indeed pitiable beings. If it weren't for the virus infection, they should have been reunited with their families and continued their previous lives. The scientists had someone bring Akai's father. He reacted strongly upon seeing his family. To study the effect of such emotions on zombies, they were willing to kill the innocent old man. Mech could no longer tolerate it. The sergeant and the captain quickly pulled him out. The captain believed that Mech would get into trouble if he continued like this, so he ordered him to withdraw from the mission. On the other side, after the Japanese army released a large amount of cyanide, the last remnants of humanity in the zombie Akai vanished. He immediately pounced on his father, devouring him voraciously. At the same time, the youth soldier zombies finally realized that Aang and Akai were missing. Xiangzi explained that Aang and Akai had gone home. His words were half true and half false. In fact, Xiangzi and a few close friends had eaten Aang earlier today while foraging. Xiangzi went to the village to look for Akai and Aang, and said that if they found them, they would bring them back. If they couldn't find them, they would part ways. Captain Nakamura had already ordered the destruction team to besiege the village.
奴らはまだ子供だ。いずれ家族の元に戻るだろう。
At this moment, Xiangzi broke into the village with several zombies, and slaughtered them on a large scale. One of the soldiers, named Sak, was happily devouring his meal, when he saw his wife and daughter, looking at him in shock. Meanwhile, Mrs. Tan was praying at her husband's memorial, hoping that he would bless Mork from beyond. Just then, the eldest son Mek hurried back. Mrs. Tan quickly asked if he had news about his brother. Even if Mork was truly dead, he must bring his body back to me, to comfort his mother. He falsely claimed that his brother fled during the Japanese invasion, so he was surely alive and hiding well. Mork, hiding in the shadows, overheard their conversation, wanting desperately to rush out and reunite with his family, but he felt too ashamed to face them in his current state. Soon after, Apen arrived, her face pale. On her way home, she encountered a body that was only half intact. She was still in shock from the encounter. Mek realized that there might be zombies in the village. He hurriedly handed the gun to his mother, and advised her that if anything strange appeared, she should shoot at it immediately. If it didn't die, then set it on fire. In any case, she must not stray too far from the source of fire. Having given his instructions, Mek left the house. At this moment, the destruction team arrived at the edge of the village woods. Sak happened to be chasing his wife Veer in the forest. He wanted to explain what had just happened, but Veer had already seen her husband eating a person. She couldn't risk her daughter's life. As the mother and daughter ran halfway, the girl suddenly fell to the ground. Sak reached out his hand toward his daughter. The girl ultimately chose to trust her father. Sak didn't harm his daughter Lee. However, the girl's cries attracted the destruction team. They prepared their crossbows. Veer rushed forward to grab her daughter. In the struggle, Sak was pushed aside. The crossbow bolts pierced through both mother and daughter. Sak let out a howl. The surrounding zombies became agitated, roaring as they charged toward the destruction team. Nearby, the captain and sergeant could no longer tolerate it. Even if these youth soldiers had turned into zombies, they couldn't be killed at will by these ruthless Japanese. After a chaotic gunfight in melee, the sergeant and captain were both shot. Before dying, they urged everyone to run. Mork cried out as he held the captain. When Mek arrived at the scene, he saw zombies gnawing on the bodies of Japanese soldiers. His brother was clinging to the squad leader, crying out. Mek didn't know the cause and effect of the whole incident. After a moment of daze, he began to shoot at his brother. His thought was quite simple. He must not allow his brother to live. Mork was quickly forced to the edge of a cliff. He looked at his brother in disbelief. While Mek was filled with guilt, a dark shadow suddenly flew up from the bottom of the cliff. When he regained consciousness, he found that he had already been assimilated by Mork. The two brothers ultimately walked down an irreversible path. The scientists worried that Nakamura's actions would anger the zombies, causing the war to continue escalating. However, he also left himself a way out. Do you remember Ashen, who turned to dust? In fact, he placed a time bomb inside the zombies. Once the experimental subjects evolved to a certain stage, they would spontaneously combust and die. The ashes produced could create a unique regeneration phenomenon in nature. The scientists knew well that those who create monsters would ultimately be unable to control them. That's why they kept this a secret from their superiors. However, before all the zombies reached the spontaneous combustion stage, it was unknown how many people would be bitten or infected, so this matter still exceeded the range of control. The next day, the Japanese army rounded up all the villagers and took them to a temporary base. Among them were Mrs. Tan and Apen. Everyone was confused about what was happening. They gathered together and made random guesses, until a few soldiers brought them before Nakamura, and then announced that the Japanese had discovered some bodies in the woods, so they asked everyone to come and identify them, to avoid offending local beliefs. The Japanese did not move the bodies. They only brought in a blackboard covered with photographs. Mrs. Tan immediately spotted Mork. Other villagers also found their own children. They collapsed in tears, but Mork was not dead. How could the Japanese possibly find his body? In fact, this was all part of Nakamura's plan. He intended to kill all the villagers in the forest, to eliminate all eyewitnesses, and prevent the existence of zombies from leaking out. On Mek's side, after being infected, he found the cave where the youth soldier zombies were hiding. Meanwhile, Mork unexpectedly stumbled upon the body of Aang being devoured. The zombies immediately erupted into infighting, until Akai suddenly appeared to stop them. He had endured many hardships to escape. Just to inform everyone that our family has been captured. Nakamura intends to kill them all. Mork felt that this could be a trap. Perhaps Nakamura intentionally let his guard down. to allow Akai to escape and deliver the message, and then lead us into a trap to capture us all. Mek was very angry. Nakamura has captured my wife and children, as well as our shared mother. Even if it is a trap, we must go. After Mek said this, he set off with the crowd of zombies. Meanwhile, the villagers were led by the Japanese army to enter the forest to identify the bodies. Mek and the zombie army quickly arrived as well, and hidden in the shadows, Nakamura immediately ordered his men to open fire. Family members died right before the zombies. Mek couldn't bear to watch Apen die. He shouted for everyone to quickly convert their relatives. At this moment, Nakamura activated a mechanism that trapped all the zombies. Mork was right. This was indeed a trap. Mek held his mother's body and demanded to know why his brother hadn't converted him sooner. Nakamura's actions had completely enraged the zombies. They worked together to quickly dismantle the cage. A great battle was about to erupt. Nakamura detonated explosives to escape. His own son was also bitten to death by zombies, but this still couldn't extinguish Mek's rage. He rallied everyone and gave a speech, swearing to convert more people to create a zombie army, to kill all the Japanese who invaded their home. Mork didn't expect his brother to be so radical. Dean, standing nearby, also spoke out in resistance, saying he didn't want to continue harming others. What they were doing would not stop the war at all. Surprisingly, Mek drew his sword at Dean upon hearing this. Apen stepped in front of him, hoping that her death would awaken Mek, but now, it was already too late.
เราจะล่อไอ้พวกญี่ปุ่นมาฆ่าทิ้งที่ถ้ำให้หมด
After Nakamura lost his son, he became increasingly insane. He directly killed the scientist and took his notes. This was when he learned that the zombie's fatal weakness was flammability. Nakamura ordered the preparation of flamethrowers. Then he began to track the zombies. The group arrived at the cave where the zombies were hiding. This was Mek's deliberate trap for them. The horde of zombies launched a surprise attack from the shadows. The Japanese soldiers hurriedly activated their flamethrowers. Zombies were afraid of fire and had to retreat. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared into the darkness. The Japanese soldiers advanced deeper into the cave. They soon found the location of the zombie horde. However, the space was too narrow for them to maneuver. They could only fire while retreating. The problem was that zombies were not afraid of bullets at all. The actions of the Japanese army were truly foolish. They knew that zombies feared fire. So why not just burn the cave down? Almost all of Nakamura's men were bitten to death. He was covered in mud, pressed against the wall, thus avoiding capture by the zombie horde. Unexpectedly, a firefly flew by, exposing Nakamura's position. By the time he remembered to use the flamethrower, it was too late. Not long after, Mork suddenly appeared. He was about to enter a state of self-ignition like Ashen, and turn into ashes. But because this war was not over, Mork surprisingly survived through sheer willpower. Now he picked up the flamethrower from the ground, and stood at the cave entrance, blocking his brother and former companions. As long as the zombies existed, the disaster wouldn't end. Mork knew he had to be ruthless and take action. As Mek looked into his brother's eyes, he surprisingly regained his senses. He also gestured for Mork to hurry up. In the end, the flames engulfed everyone. Mek led the charge toward the remaining zombies, embracing them as they burned to ashes together. Mork also tossed aside the flamethrower, and leaped into the flames. The film ends here. It blends elements of family, kinship, and anti-war themes, using the fictional zombie genre to present brotherly love, family responsibilities and moral dilemmas, maybe due to cost and technical limitations. Except for the first couple of scenes, the rest are all set in the dark. The filming locations are either in caves or dense forests, making it so dark that faces are completely unrecognizable. Moreover, the male actors all have similar hairstyles, dressed in matching military uniforms and covered in mud. This is a disaster for those who are face-blind. However, the zombie special effects makeup is very well done, and it doesn't pull viewers out of the experience. Although the director had many things to express, but the script is not fluid enough, and has too many piled-up elements, resulting in a significant drop in viewing experience. If you enjoy my channel, please click subscribe.